Welcome to the Awareness podcast. In today's episode, we had the chance to speak with Jackson Morris, head of football performance at Missouri State University. In today's episode, if I would have to describe it as just one word, it would be actionable. So if you're an athlete that wants to know how to train, exactly how to train, then this episode is definitely for you. We went into specific reps, sets, intensity for each part of the season and how the best athletes at the collegiate level do it. So we went into how the program is different in all these different moments of the season and why it is like that. What are the main goals that you want to hit on the preseason? What are the main goals that you want to hit in the off season? And what are the main things that you have to look at in season? So again, if you're an athlete that is tired of just hearing all these brought up buys in the internet, but actually want to get to the specifics of how to train, then this episode is definitely for you. Enjoy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the 31st episode of the Awarenezzz podcast. Today we're here with our guest, Jackson Morris. Thank you very much for being here, and introduce yourself to the people.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. My name is Jackson Morris. I'm the director of football performance here at Missouri State University.
Perfect, man. Perfect, Jackson. And as I told you just now, I really appreciate you taking the time for being here and providing us with value, and really looking forward for this one, man. So we all know that right now you're in Missouri State, as you just mentioned, but if you could just run us a little bit through that journey of how you got to that point, what got you to the sports performance part, and then also into that position at Missouri State, just so we have a little bit more of context.
Yeah, no, perfect. So growing up, I always joke about with people like, some people grow up working on cars. Other people are, doing other stuff with their family. I kind of grew up in a gym.
Yeah.
My dad owned a personal training studio. So from the time that I was, 3-4 years old, I was running around a weight room, climbing on equipment. And I started training kind of at a young age. Obviously, as I grew older, got more involved with sports. I saw how the training aspect of things helped me on the field. Initially, as I kind of transitioned from, high school to college, I had the opportunity to play football the next level at Georgia Southern University. And I thought that I wanted to be a teacher and a football coach.
Okay.
Which has always played kind of a significant role in my life. So as I kind of got into college, I, did my undergraduate in physical education.
Mm-hmm.
I finished up playing football, started coaching. I was in my first season coaching varsity football, and I got halfway through the year. I'm like, God, I'm miserable. I did not enjoy the on the field coaching aspect of it. But during that time, I got back into really training heavy again. I reached out to one of my previous strength and conditioning coaches, Kyle Spear, asked if I could do an internship.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, he was at Tulane University in New Orleans, Louisiana. And he said, come on. So that summer, I believe it's the summer of 2018, I think it was.
Okay.
Moved to New Orleans, Louisiana, and absolutely fell in love with strength and conditioning. While I was down there, I was offered a graduate assistantship, but that kind of fell through. So I was stuck in July in New Orleans trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And one of the guys that I played with, Jeff Ward, called me one day. He's like, hey, man, are you in strength and conditioning? I'm like, yeah, what's up? I'm at Tulane right now. I was like, hey, I just got the Olympic director spot back at Georgia Southern. Are you interested in coming and working for me? Mm-hmm. And the next day I moved back to Statesboro, Georgia, where I did my undergraduate. So I interned there. That kind of transitioned to a part-time paid.
Mm-hmm.
He got a job at Mercer University in Macon, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at Mercer from 2019 until the fall of 23.
Okay.
The opportunity to go back to Tulane and work for Kurt Hester. So I moved back to New Orleans that fall. At the end of that football season, Willie Fritz, who I had played for, who was at the time the head coach of Tulane, got the opportunity to go to Houston. And Kurt, the head strength coach, was very transparent with me. He's like, hey, man, I would love to take you with us to Houston, but I don't have a spot for you, but I will help you out any way that I can. So one day he walked to the office and was like, hey, Missouri State, head job, are you interested? And I said, absolutely. That afternoon, I sent my resume, my references, my cover letter, got on the phone with the head coach. We talked for about an hour. The next day, we technically did a quote unquote like interview. And
Mhm.
then days later, man, he offered me the job, and within 2 weeks, I was moving to Springfield, Missouri. So that's kind of how I got to Missouri State, and I've been here now, God, a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah,
Um,
2 years almost, no?
yeah, and I've loved every moment of it.
Oh, that's amazing, man. That's amazing. And for all the people to know, I mean, of course, now you're the head position over there in Missouri State. What does it involve? Like, what's your specific role in Missouri State as the head of strength and conditioning in the football team?
Yeah, so everybody thinks strength and conditioning is just the weight room, right?
Mm.
But realistically, for me, and why I kind of have the title of football performance is I'm involved in every single aspect of it, right? So not only are we, trying to get the guys bigger, faster, stronger in the weight room, right? But I'm trying to prepare them to be successful mentally, emotionally. And that involves obviously a lot of, spending time with the guys on the field, off the field. We're not only doing, basic barbell movements in the weight room, but we're bridging the gap on the field. We're working towards more specific sports performance aspects of like football specific drills. So in the summer, man, we're working towards like tackling, working towards, very specific, patterns, and we're breaking it down by position so that once we get into camp and season, they're ready to roll.
Okay. So in that off-season work and in that work outside of the field, you try to replicate as much as possible the movements that they're going to encounter in the game, right?
Yeah. So for me, I always work very general to specific. So, as we kind of probably transition to philosophy here, right? So like for me, everybody talks about philosophy. They just initially think like training philosophy. For me, it starts with a coaching philosophy that then builds into a training philosophy. So for me,
Hey.
I'm about, what I call the total athlete, right? Growing up, kind of in the 90s, early 2000s, the NCAA used to run a commercial and it says, NCAA, like, 2,000 or 1,500 student athletes going pro in something else other than sports. I don't know if you guys have probably ever seen that. It's a really old commercial. And it's true. Like 99% of student athletes are going to end up going professional in something other than sports. And for me, that was a really challenging aspect of my life. So, I always tell my guys, like, hey, there's always two consistencies in your life, and it's football and school. And from the time you're 6 to 22, you're doing both of those things. And then 22 pretty much hits, right? Minus like the COVID epidemic where we got guys that are like 23, 24, 25 now. But like, those are the two consistencies in your life. And then all of a sudden, both of them aren't taken away from you, right? But like, they end. And you've got guys that their entire personality, their identity is in being a athlete.
Definitely.
And all of a sudden that ends. So for me, I've got 40 years to prepare my guys for the next 40 years. So how can I develop them and put them in adverse situations so they can be successful in the weight room, on the football field, but also for life after football?
I see.
But then when it comes to training, right, take that as the base. So you're building relationships with the guys. You're talking with them about, those leadership aspects and what they can do to be a better person. And when it comes to training, for me, my foundation in training is multi-joint barbell movements. I'm very ground-based. I use a lot of Olympic variants. And I work from general to specific. In our early off season, obviously a big emphasis on, coming off of a break, evaluating our guys, seeing how they're looking movement wise. Also during that time, you probably got a lot of new athletes that you've never worked with before. So figuring out kind of where their baseline is, taking them where they're at, and then taking them where they need to go. As we get closer to football, work in the weight room on the field becomes more position specific. I break my team up into bigs, mids, and skills. Obviously the skills, they're working as being more focused on, being a little bit more dynamic. And with bigs, playing in a box is more about them being strong and powerful. And our work that we do in the weight room and on the field basically mimics that.
Okay, I see. Nah, man, and just before we go into like the more performance part of it, I really want to touch back a little bit on that philosophy aspect that you mentioned of how a lot of the guys' identity is tied to the specific sport they play, or to the sport they play. And I really resonate with it because not so long ago I suffered from an injury. I mean, a little bit long ago, 2 years ago, I suffered from an injury that has kept me out of field for those 2 years. And it's kind of like that same thing where something strikes, and what you've been doing all your life, you cannot do it anymore. So you're kind of like in that dilemma. Okay, what do I do now? And I really see how an approach like yours, a philosophy like yours, can benefit an athlete, because I think everybody goes through that stage. So not just thinking about, okay, how do I get you to play well tomorrow, but then also how do I prepare you for the upcoming 40 years, because that's like the bigger picture, and also preparing them for the long term. And that's also part of the reason why we started this, and also like trying to bring more people, just so the athletes don't get the training that they get on the afternoon or in the 2 hours that they get in the field, but then they also have these tools in which they're able to work and develop those other skills that are going to help them in the long term. So I just wanted to touch on that and say that it's not very common, but I really like that philosophy that you have of not just working on the game, but then working on the individual itself. I think it's very valuable, man.
Yeah, and people will find the better relationships you build with your guys, the harder they're going to play for you, the harder they're going to work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, like, guys, you could have the most like perfect sound program known to man,
Mm-hmm.
but if the guys or the girls that you're training don't buy into it or don't buy into you, it doesn't matter. I can have the most simple, basic program known to man, but if I got a complete buy-in to what I'm doing, then you'll see a lot of results, and whatever those results may be for you, right? Depending on how you define them. But just from the buy-in standpoint, you will see progress.
Definitely, man. Definitely. I totally agree with you there. And now going more into the training and the performance aspect of it, you mentioned how you always try to go from general to a specific, and then divide your team into the mid, the bigs, and the skills.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, what does general mean to you? Like, how does that general look like when you're in that general stage, and then how you transition it to the specific?
Yeah, so in an early off season, right, when it starts with that evaluation process,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to rebuild movement patterns. So for me, I love barbell complexes. So I'm hammering, teaching the guys my 6 foundational movements. It's going to be squat, hinge, push, pull, single leg, and core. So in the weight room, I'm not really breaking down any type of position specific work. Everybody is doing pretty much the exact same thing. Very much so when it comes to programming, I'm very conjugate based. So in the early off season, we're going to train 4 days a week. We will always start on the field. Why? Because that's where my guys play.
Mm-hmm.
On the field, it'll be very much so introductory to accelerative type work. We'll work those positions, postures, patterns twice a week. And then the other 2 days, we'll start doing introducing like change of direction, decelerations. And then we'll have a day that's relatively GPP based, where we're doing like boxes or just tempo type work, just trying to work, postures, patterns, and build that general work capacity. In the weight room, on my acceleration / max velocity days, there's going to be our big lower body days.
Okay.
The off season, we'll do a kind of repetition effort lower body day and a sub maximal lower body day, and then basically the same thing for upper body type days.
Okay.
One day, or both those days will be, a complex working, pulling and catching, kind of working our basic Olympic derivatives. Upper body days we'll do some type of overhead, whether it be a snatch or a push press. And then my main upper body movements will be some type of bench variant, some bilateral squats, some single leg squats. And with that, we're either going to be building volume or be working under a tempo to kind of repattern, regrain.
Okay. And is this how the structure gonna look like just in the off season, or does it translate the same way in the inside the season?
So this should just be off season.
Off season. Okay.
Yeah,
And
off season.
I had a question on what benefit is the athlete getting from dividing the days in between higher repetition but then lower repetition? I mean, you're playing like in those two areas, if I understood correctly. What's the main goal of it?
So obviously with the higher repetition,
Mm-hmm.
building work capacity,
Okay.
muscle mass.
Mm-hmm.
Our lower repetition days would be our like tempo type days. So it's going to be just a lot of time under tension. Like I said, that early off season is all about movement patterns and then just work capacity and then putting on any type of muscle mass that we have lost from basically having a little bit of time off.
Okay. So basically just working on that work capacity of the athlete and then just helping them get those reps in and then build any type of deficiency that may have come from that the stress, of course, and the schedule of
Yeah.
the season. And is that how all the off season is going to look like, or do you slowly start to transition towards the preseason, or how do you approach the timing of it?
Yeah. So football is kind of weird in the spring. Well, I guess it's similar to other sports too. Like soccer has an in-season phase in the collegiate level in the spring too. So
Yeah.
as we progress, some volumes will progress to continue to build that work capacity. Some volumes will lessen to increase the intensity to get ready for the end season. As we transition into kind of that end season phase,
Mhm.
I'll then transition from a 4-day kind of lifting schedule to where we're doing 3 total body days.
Okay.
So the athletes are able to recover and also get into sport.
Okay.
Typically, that early off-season phase, I'll have like 6-ish weeks, and then I'll have about 5 weeks of end season to where we'll transition to a more tier-based system to where every single day is, total, lower, upper, total, upper,
Okay.
total, lower. So we'll basically transition to a tier system. And then
Okay.
once one season segment is over, we'll transition back into 3 or 4 weeks of kind of bridging the gap from an off season into like an early preparatory phase.
Okay. So in that off-season stage, of course, you start more general. You start with the four days a week, right? You have your upper and your lower, and then you transition to 3 total body sessions, right? And does these 3 total body sessions, do they have the same structure, or do you work on something different in each session?
So they'll have a different structure. So
Okay.
early in the week, typically in football during the spring period, you'll practice 3 days a week. For us, if I remembering correctly, we'll practice on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Saturday being a really, really heavy practice day, typically the scrimmage day. So with that, we'll actually lift Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday is a total lower body day. We'll go pretty heavy on the intensity of that day in the lower body. Why? Because it's farthest away from the heavy practice or the game on Saturday.
Okay.
That second day will be more total upper body emphasis with a little bit of single leg work.
Mhm.
And then that Friday, the day before we scrimmage, is pretty much all dynamic effort. That's pretty much like a short primer. We'll come in, even with the warm-up stuff that we do, we'll be in and out in like 35, 40-ish minutes.
Okay.
And it's all dynamic effort, something fast on the platform. We'll do, iso-mid. We'll do a little bit of contrast work. We'll do like iso-mid thigh pulls into some jumps, into some weighted jumps, into some overspeed. We'll do like some type of chain squat or single leg work. And then on the back end, we'll do some landmine rotational variants, med ball throws.
Okay.
Everything just kind of priming the CNS for the following day.
I see. And I have a couple of questions here for I don't know, some of the guys watching this that may not be familiar with some of the things that you're mentioning, but are definitely super important. Mainly, I wanted to ask you, okay, you mentioned how you try to have the heavy day as far from the competition as possible, or the heavy practice as possible. For all the guys that are watching that are also athletes, I wanted you to tell us a little bit what a heavy day looks like for you in terms of repetitions, sets, what type of exercises are you doing?
Yeah. So on that Monday, we're going to do some type of pull and catch from the floor. So I'm typically going to do some type of power clean from the floor. I'm going to pair it with some type of post shoulder work. In the spring, I'm going to do pretty much like doubles. So volume's going to be relatively low. We'll do 4 to 6 sets of 2 Intensities anywhere from like 70 to 80%. So it's not incredibly maxed out for work. I'm more worried about, working good positions to start, smooth pulls, triple extend, receive the barbell. Once we're done there, we'll transition into some bilateral back squat. Typically in season with the training load a little bit heavier. A lot of times we'll work to a box. We'll warm up and then we'll box squat. We'll do 3 to 5 sets, doubles, triples. Typically somewhere between 75 and 85%.
Okay.
Depending on where we're at in the, annual plan. And then the back end work right after that squat, we'll probably do some type of hinge. We'll RDL, we'll pull up.
Okay.
We'll do a little bit of upper body work for volume, whether it's like a dumbbell incline in a row, and then some type of single leg. Typically, I'll do like a side lunge or something along those lines as well.
I see.
So it's kind of what that early, total lower body day for me looks like. Some type of either in season or spring in season model.
Okay. And you mentioned, of course, because a lot of us think of like normal movements that are usually bilateral.
Yep.
But then you've mentioned a lot that you really try to focus on also on the single leg movements. What are the benefits that an athlete can get from single leg training?
Yeah, as an athlete, you're always on a single leg, right? So any type of sprint, any type of change of direction, right? You're always working on a single leg. It's my job to work my athletes in all planes, and then load them at the end ranges so that when their body gets in those positions on the field, they're strong in those positions, right? And I believe that by working in those end ranges, by working on that single leg, those positions, when athletes get into those positions, inadvertently, they're able to protect themselves from potential injury and harm.
I see. And then last point that you mentioned just now is, and this is also a new concept to me as well, of priming, that you want to prime your system, you want to prime your body right before a competition. What does that mean, and like how exactly do you do it, and what benefits can you get from it if you do it before the game?
Yeah, so there's a lot of really great research on just dynamic effort work. And by working dynamically and by addressing dynamic effort, your CNS, your central nervous system is basically heightened for the next 48 hours. And when done correctly, I'll tell my guys, that the focus today is to come in, be, violent, be fast. You will actually be feeling better when you leave the room than when you walked in. So a lot of times, like even in season right now, like I'll train my guys on Friday, do some dynamic effort work before we travel. That way they're woke up a little bit, and they're feeling better before they get on the plane. And then we'll even do some stuff at the hotel and even the day of the game as well. Basically, there's a lot of great research that, suggests that by doing some dynamic effort work, there's a 48-hour carryover of your central nervous system being just heightened.
Okay, so it's basically doing a movement that's going to resemble in some way the intensity that's going to be had in the game. So you're kind of preparing your nervous system for that intensity that you're going to face, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, perfect. So now we're moving from the off season, in which of course you go through these 4-day programs, then to these 3-day programs, total body, and then you kind of break it down into segments again of total body, lower, upper. Once you're going more to that transition of preparing them for the season, how does that change? What are the main things that you're looking for in this stage?
Yeah, so basically in the football world, I'll get my guys back in June and July. These are my preparatory phases. With that, we'll kind of go back to a similar training schedule as we did in the spring. So we'll go back to our 4 days for me. 1 day being acceleration, 1 day being max velocity. Those would be my Mondays and my Thursdays. Early in the summer, I'll have that Tuesday be a little bit of intro to change of direction, because we'll have a lot of new guys from the portal. At least we did this past year. So I want to coach a little bit of deceleration, change of direction. Friday will be a little bit of conditioning. We'll follow that schedule for about 3 weeks. And then from there, I will actually start getting us into more practice, simulating practice on those days. So
Okay.
Monday and Thursday will still be acceleration and max velocity.
Yeah.
Tuesday and Friday will be what we call PLPs, or player-led practices. On those days, we'll go outside, we'll warm up. We'll actually do some station work, mimics basically individual drills for football. So we'll do a lot of competition type drills that also mimic sport. So that's actually really, really cool. And it's funny, some of our coaches actually took the drills that we were utilizing and actually inserted them into their individual drills that they're now doing in practice. So
PLP.
yeah, PLP, player-led practice. So about 30 minutes of station work. They will actually go into a physical player-led practice. So they will then go to, going and running their individual drills on their own. So they'll break up by position. They'll roll for, 30 minutes doing, football.
Yeah.
And as the summer progresses, I spend less time doing my station work and they do more time they're doing their football work. So the longer we get into the summer, that back half, they're doing more and more football, basically to the point that last week of July that we're training, those PLP days are just basically player-led practice days. So that once we get into camp, their body has experienced some type of quote unquote practice.
Okay.
They don't reach, the alarm phase that some guys do when they get to camp is like, holy smokes, like that first week, your body's just absolutely been through it, right?
Yeah.
They try to transition to where we're spending more and more time doing more football specific stuff. By the end of summer, their body's actually somewhat prepared for camp.
Yeah, and during this summer that you're doing, of course, you're running your program of you have your Mondays and Thursdays are mass velocity and speed and agility and acceleration, sorry, and then you start introducing your PLPs. In the meantime of that, in that summer, is the team training like in as a whole, or are they only relying on the training that they're having with you? Like, are they having any type of contact or any type of football practice outside of what they're doing with you?
No, so mostly it's all basically with us, and that's why I kind of talk about it being more of a football performance type position, right? Because I'm pretty heavily involved with getting your guys ready for football.
Yeah.
So we're basically working with my coaching staff to kind of set them up to where they're ready to roll once camp rolls around. Now, during this time, they may be watching film on their own. A lot of our guys will have kind of an open field on Saturdays to where it's optional. They'll come out and do some like football specific type stuff. But as far as like doing anything outside with the coaches, like it's really just us.
No, then it makes a lot of sense. I just can't imagine how big of an impact it will be, like coming from not having any football contact for, I don't know, 2 months to then all of a sudden just getting slammed by the biggest person in the university,
Yeah, no doubt. And during that time too, as far as stuff we're doing in the weight room, kind of same format as far as my lower body days, or mainly lower body days, are working with the max velocity and acceleration, uppers with the PLPs. With that, we're transitioning from more of a repetition effort and a sub-max effort to now we're doing a dynamic effort day and then a sub-max effort to a max effort day, if that makes sense. So basically the intensity is now increased a little bit, right? Volumes are coming down. It's undulating. But as far as like total weight room volume of work, we're not doing as much volume as we did on some of the high points in the spring because the emphasis is now changing.
I see.
We were going from a time and a period where we're trying to put on, a lot of lean muscle mass, trying to build a lot of work capacity. Well, now we've got that foundation of, hey, we've got a foundation of work capacity. We'll address it a little bit at the beginning of the summer, right? But we've got that work capacity. We've got that volume of, muscle mass. Now let's start getting, bigger, faster, stronger. So I didn't have a lot of volume under the bar. We'll have more volume on our back end work that's addressing kind of our needs, whether it be, more specific hamstring, adductor, post shoulder, what we're addressing volume with our problem areas versus heavier volumes under the bar.
I see. I see. So at this stage, what you're trying to do is just get them as prepared as possible I mean, when the season is coming. So you're starting to lower the volume a little bit, but then ramping up the intensity, kind of like they get used to that intensity as well. And I mean, of course, the PLPs are gonna be depending on the position of each player, and them running their drills, but that weight training that you mentioned, is that still the same for everybody, or are you now dividing it into the other segments?
Yeah. So at this point, the training in the weight room is now divided between your bigs, mids, and skills. So
Okay.
now it's very much so tailored to their positions.
Okay, and is it gonna change the exercise selection, the intensity, or the repetitions, or all of them?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
and just so we get also a good idea, who do you put into your into your bigs? Who do you put into your mids? Who do you put into your skills?
Yeah. So my bigs are my O line, D line.
Mm-hmm.
My mids are my D ends or edges. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
my tight ends, my linebackers, my quarterbacks. My
Okay,
skill guys are my running backs, my wide receivers,
I see.
DBs, safeties, all that type of stuff.
Okay, okay. No, it makes a lot of sense though. And I mean, now we get a good idea of how the off season looks like, how that preseason stage in which you're trying to prepare them for the season, for camp, how that looks like. So now that we're transitioning into camp, into season, how does it look like, and how do you make sure that it's done as smoothly as possible?
Yeah. So during fall camp, as on the field volumes rise significantly, right? Um,
Mhm.
I have to take into account for that. So my volumes in the weight room decrease significantly.
Yeah,
Typically during camp, we'll still train 2 to 3 times a week.
2 to 3 times.
Um, Basically, very much so like spring ball. So be very tier based, very, very moderate intensities, very low volumes, just because the guys are being stressed so much on the field. I don't want to basically just continue to dig a hole in the weight room. So I basically get what I need and then get them out. So that may be, 5 to 6 movements. We're in here for 40 minutes and then we're out.
Out.
Um, Basically, ideally, in camp, for us, we kind of pride ourselves on being a little bit old school, while also being a little bit of new school. So we
Mhm.
still believe in, we work hard during camp. Our camp is still very challenging. But luckily for me, I've got a great relationship with my coaching staff. We'll kind of ramp and build into camp.
Mhm.
So that first week of practice, we don't just start that first day with like 30 periods, right? Like some people
Yeah.
do. We'll kind of build into it. So we'll start with, 16 to 18. We'll build by the end of the week, working up to, 20 to 24. And that second week is where we really hit the ground running. And then that third week, we'll honestly kind of back off, depending on where we're at as a football team.
Okay.
As we transition into in season, my programming changes pretty significantly. I surf I call it surfing the curve.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
so every week basically has a different emphasis.
Yeah.
We're part of the force velocity curve. Um, so we'll have a week that is, very speed based. We'll have a week that's, acceleration based. We'll have strength, speed, strength, absolute. And it's all dependent on kind of who we're playing and kind of what their playing style is, at least from an evaluation standpoint on our end.
Okay.
But every month we're hitting every aspect of the curve. That way, we're still able to stay strong. We're still able to be powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done it. This is now the second year that I've done it, and it's worked really, really well for us.
Okay.
And even with that, we're using a lot of different barbell movements, and we're basically undulating, intensities and volumes based upon, percent, coach's eye, and bar speed. uh,
Okay.
it's been really, really good for us.
So let's say, because as you mentioned, you want to hit all those points of the force velocity curve. Uh, can you name all those points, just so we can do like, because I wanna, okay, have outline all the points that you want to hit, and
Yep.
then have different type of opponents, and then seeing how you would structure a month of training considering the opponents that you're gonna play, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So we'll start at the top. So it'd be absolute.
Mm-hmm.
I consider absolute 80 to 85 plus. So it's going to be pretty heavy as far as intensity is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Right below that is acceleration. Acceleration is from, 60 to 80%.
Mm-hmm.
Strength speed would be, 40 to 60. Speed strength is, 20 to 40. Anything below 20 is just basically speed.
Okay.
What
And
else?
what would be different types of opponents you might face?
Yeah, so for us, so like for example, SMU was a really big game for us.
Mm-hmm.
I treat my speed weeks kind of like a deload as well, just from an intensity standpoint. Now, neurologically, it might not be right, but from just a intensity standpoint, I treat my speed weeks as a deload.
Mm-hmm.
I did that for SMU because that was a big game we hosted at home, ACC opponent, college football playoffs last year.
Mm-hmm.
So that for us was a big speed week. Absolute, which was incredibly heavy. I use that typically during our bye weeks. I also utilized it this year during our game against UT Martin. Nothing against UT Martin. They are a great, Ohio Valley conference team. They've won the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, that should be a game that we should go in and handle business and win.
Okay.
So that was a little bit heavier of a week for us.
Yeah.
Acceleration. I think I did that for our very first game against USC.
Mm-hmm.
Just coming out of camp. And I have to think, let me look back. I can actually pull up my annual plan real quick and actually see what I used.
Definitely. So you want a little bit less of load. You want less load when the game is, for example, is more intense. Like is gonna require more from your players, just so they feel fresh before the games.
Typically, yeah. That's a very simplistic way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, like I imagine there's way more that goes into it. And then by week, you mean you don't have a game in 2 weeks? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So on a bye week, we just wouldn't have a game.
Okay.
Basically that week.
I see.
And so right now, I can give you an example of our next kind of where we're at now. So last week was a bye week, so we hit absolute. This week we're playing New Mexico State. We're hitting strength speed.
Okay.
The following week we're playing FIU at home. We're gonna hit some acceleration work, and then we're playing Liberty on the road. That is going to be a speed strength week for us. So that's basically our month of training this month.
Okay, and does the fact that the game is in the road play a significant role in that?
Yeah, so I also take into account, where we're playing, academic schedule, or the type of schedule changes that we have within our calendar as well, because we'll plan, all of our calendars months and months in advance, right? So I have an idea, when I made my annual plan, however long ago, right? So typically, I'm a big planner. I'm a big believer in planning.
Yeah.
Either preparing to, plan or planning to fail. So I plan way, way ahead of time. But I was working on my annual plan, in May, June, whatever. I was already having those conversations of potentially what does October look like? What does November look like? What is our in-season schedule going to look like? So I'll take that into account with an academic schedule. Because at the end of the day, stress is stress, right? Your body doesn't know, hey, this is school stress. This is life stress. Yeah. It's just stress. So that's kind of the fun part of what I do is, can we get enough stimulus for adaptation to continue to either maintain or, continue to progress with all the external stressors as well.
Yeah.
Wow. And the difficult part with that is till you got 105 guys, everybody, deals with stress differently. So you're trying to do what's best for, everybody. And it's a challenge.
Definitely, man. Definitely. So it's definitely not just going to the gym and putting a program for them, right?
Yeah, they may think that, but it's a lot more goes into it.
Oh yeah, man. I can imagine, man. It's just all taking into consideration all these different variables that come into play, because you may have, and also like you plan for it, you try to account for it, and yeah, you might have come up with the best plan, but then that day probably something completely different happens, so you also have to be ready to adjust for it, right?
Yeah, like if you come in, your guys, you look horrible. Like I can know, we spend more time with our guys than anybody else does, right? So
Mhm.
I can tell exactly how we're going to be when they walk in the door. So I know, like, hey, as we're getting into our warm up, or we're getting into our run, or we're getting into our lift, see some stuff like, hey, like this ain't going to work for today. Let's lower volumes. Let's lower intensities. Let's, pull a set off. Whatever we've got to do to make sure our guys are successful.
Definitely,
How
definitely.
does
And
the process look like of lowering the volume? Like you talk to the athletes, or they come up to you?
It'd be with a lot of side conversations. Also, a lot of it's just coach's eye, right? Like you come in and your guys are lethargic. They're normally vibrant or have a lot of energy. They come in, they're lethargic. You see, bags under their eyes. You can tell that they're stressed, and it's like, okay, like guys, like what adjustments do we need to make? Maybe it's instead of doing 3 sets on the back end, hey, we're doing 2. Instead of doing 8 reps, let's go 5.
yeah,
And then also just bar speed. I mean, you can tell like when a guy gets under a barbell and that bar does not look, it's not moving the way it should. It's like, okay, like something's up. So
yeah,
it's a combination of your observation from when they walk in the door. It's the conversations that you're having with the guys or your athletes, and then getting into the weight room and just observing bar speed, techniques, all that type of stuff.
I see. So it's a mixture of both your observation and then also their feedback.
Yeah,
Okay.
1,000%.
And Jackson, just to kind of finish it off, this part of like how the training looks like, I wanted if you could just give us an idea of like how does an absolute session looks like, how does a session when you're trying to do it, when you're in the acceleration point looks like, how does it look like when you're in the speed strength, in the strength speed, how does it
Yeah.
look for each specific of these points?
Yeah. So what I did with my programming is I assigned movements
Hmm.
with different aspects of the curve. So like for me, an absolute session would be coming in, let's say it's a day 1. So even in season, we still train 3 days a week. Very
Hmm.
similar, like we talked about earlier, that third day is all dynamic effort type work. So
Hmm.
we'll kind
Yeah.
of talk about, the main total lower body day, and we'll talk about the total upper. So when it comes to absolute, I'm sitting there looking at it now. So last week we came in, we had clean pulls, we warmed up. We went 3x2 clean pull from the floor
Hmm.
between 90 and 97% of their clean max. Right after that, the movement that I chose as an absolute movement was a Hatfield squat.
Okay.
So the reason behind that is a little bit easier from an aspect of it's hand assisted. So that's a great way that you can train really, really heavy in season through full ranges of motion,
Hmm.
while taking a little bit of the load off of the athlete themselves.
I see.
Hatfield squats. Then on the back end work, it's very specific to the position. So with my skill guys, I went upside down kettlebell press. I went croc row,
Hmm.
single leg barbell RDL, a transverse lunge, and then we did a single leg long lever ISO. And that was my absolute day.
Okay.
And it took, with a warm up, 45 minutes. So
Okay.
not a ton of volume,
Yeah.
but intensity is pretty high.
Hmm.
And by doing that once every 4 weeks, we're able to, keep our strength. And it's being, we have bald force decks, and, we're taking data from obviously our coaches on what they're doing under the bar, but then we still have guys. We're in this thing, this is week 9. And that doesn't include the 3 or 4 weeks of camp. We still have guys PRing on their counter movement jumps
Really?
week 9 in season. So it shows that what we're doing is working.
Definitely.
Um,
Definitely.
then acceleration day, we'll power clean from the floor. It'll be a little bit lighter,
Hmm.
like 70 to 80%. We'll do doubles and singles. On that day, we'll pause box squat. Why? It's all about acceleration. So we'll pause, drive. Intensities are still a little bit lighter. On this week, we did 4x3 between 70 and 75%.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the back end work was the same. Still the upside down kettlebells, still the croc row, still working the single leg barbell RDL, transverse lunge, and the single leg ISO. So the only thing that's changing for me is the Olympic movement and the bilateral lower body, strength work when it comes to surfing the curve. And then whatever my back end work is, that block for that 4 weeks will stay the same.
Oh yeah, the back end stays consistent regardless of the point that you're hitting.
Correct, at least for that block. So my blocks are 3 to 4 weeks long. So all the accessory back end movement will stay the same. And then as we transition to the next block, they will either progress or regress.
Okay. And then for the speed strength and the strength speed?
Yep, speed strength, it'll be power clean from the hang for strength speed.
From the hand?
Yeah, from the hang. It'll be chain squat for the bilateral lower body. And then for speed, it'll be a high pull from the hang and then a banded speed squat.
Okay. So then the accessory, as we mentioned, will stay the same.
Yep. So that's my kind of main total lower day. So on the absolute, I'm not using any type of accommodating resistance. It's pretty heavy. On the accelerative, no accommodating resistance, but your main barbell movements. And then with the strength speed and the spin strength, I'm using chains and bands.
Okay.
Yeah, the intensities are much, much lower. With the bands, talking like 30 to 40%. With the chains, 40 to 60, and they'll add an extra, the accommodating resistance will add the extra 20 to 25%. So
I see. No, amazing, man. Amazing. And just getting into all these specifics of how, because I mean, I'm from Colombia, so in Colombia, football is not like such a big thing, but you of course know that the biggest athletic freaks are in the sport of football, right? So just getting an idea of how like everything that goes into consideration when programming for a football team for a football season, which is such a physically demanding sport, is just fascinating to me. And just I think there's a lot of actionable advice and actionable information that you left for all the people, like specific exercises to pick, why to pick those exercises, the repetitions to do, why to do those repetitions, not only what to do, but also why to do it, which I think is also important for people to know, that just so they don't just say, oh, I'm doing squats because this person say to do squats, but okay, why are you actually doing it? So I think the thing that you just mentioned and the thing that you just talked about are super valuable, man. Is there anything else, Matze?
No, I'm struggling with my Wi-Fi today, honestly. But everything I heard was like very interesting. And I have one question, like, what is the main benefit of doing like banded squats, for example? Is it more like for the passive movement downwards?
Yeah, so with when you add accommodating resistance, right? So when you have chains, it unloads as you come down, so it's easier to drive out of the hole, and it gets heavier as you get in basically better positions for your body to move. Bands are a challenge because that band is also tight at the top and you have tension on the way down. So that band is kind of pulling you on the way down and forcing you to really drive out of the hole. When it comes to bands, there's a big neurological component to that as well. But yeah, it's like bands are incredibly, incredibly challenging for athletes. It could be a really great tool.
It's like they bring resistance, in some ways making the movement more efficient now, because they bring resistance in the positions that you're more able to produce that force, right?
Yeah.
Okay. No, amazing, man. And I mean, as I told you, if you're down for it, we can do some rapid fire questions just to wrap it up. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Perfect, man. So what is the most overrated exercise that you see people do?
Oh man, that is a great question. I don't know, man. Like, I'm very big in being brilliant in the basics.
Yeah.
When I see people doing all these like outrageous, like like ridiculous stuff, I don't know. I just see, and it's all over social media and
yeah, like in a Bozu ball with one leg and with one hand.
What are we doing? And it's just, I think that stuff is just not that everything has a point of purpose, everything has a place in a program, but I'm very much so being brilliant in the basics, and then putting your athletes in positions to be successful. When I see that stuff, I don't see either of those those boxes being checked off. So
I see. I think is not so. It's not necessarily that it's bad for you, but also considering that you're an athlete and you have limited time. Well, it's not the best use of your time, right? You're not being efficient with it.
yeah, it's like, why? Like, what is the point of doing that? Like, for me, like, I would never want to put my athlete in a position where they could get injured in the weight room.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a great point.
I got to go to my sport coach and say, like, yeah, like so and so, rolled their ankle because they were trying to balance on a posted ball with one leg while doing a press or a row, or like just like trying to go and explain that and be like, yeah, they're out for 2 weeks. I'm like, what the freak are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And just to flip it around, what's the most underrated exercise in your opinion?
I think, and I think a lot of people are getting away from overhead movements. I think and I think it's everybody's obsession with the bench press right now. Like, just worldwide, everybody loves the bench, right? Like, I think there's so much value in push pressing and jerking and snatching and overhead squatting. I think a lot of think that's within sports performance, people don't train them because they're like complicated movements, or they're harder to coach, and obviously coach what you know, right? But I think there is so much value in training all aspects overhead, whether it's heavy, whether it's benefited more for speed. I think so many athletes don't do that anymore, and I think that's a big reason why you have, specifically in football, so many issues with labrums, AC sprains, because you got so many people doing everything horizontally, nothing vertically overhead, and they're not working every aspect of the curve. They're not doing it for, an absolute under heavier intensity. They're not working it with speed or working it, in some type of explosive component. And I think, that's an underrated movement that's also causing a little bit of issues on the field as well, as far as staying healthy is concerned.
So if you had to pick three overhead exercises that every athlete should be doing, which ones would they be?
Yeah, I think overhead squat is probably one. I love snatching. There's the intent and the athletic ability it takes to snatch. Then I'll say push press. The ability to just really train that thing heavy overhead as well.
Also, like for the whole upper body mobility, I think it's very underrated. Like
1000%.
Especially in like, I play soccer, come in to play soccer as well. A lot of guys go to the gym and do like upper body mobility.
Yeah. No, we do a lot of even here we do a lot of FRC, not only mobility, but like pails and rails, and specifically with our quarterbacks and guys with shoulder issues. Now that leads to, longevity and, strength overhead.
Definitely. And Jackson, if you had to pick in between day game or night game, which one would you pick and why?
Ooh. I think there's benefits of both of them. Atmospheres and night games are awesome.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than playing under the lights, but I cannot stand waiting all day for the game. And it's funny, I get more nervous now as a professional than I ever did as an athlete.
Really?
For me, my anxiety just builds throughout the day. I'm just so ready to get to the stadium, so ready to get into the warm-up, so ready to get into the game. And day games are nice because you wake up. I love playing noon games because you wake up and you're rolling. Let's go.
Yeah, right. No, I don't know if you've seen that meme of there's an alien just in the bed, ready, waiting for it. It's you're waiting your whole day is just a filler up until you get to that point of the game, right?
Yeah, so we'll play we'll play this Wednesday at 8 p.m. I'm just holy smokes.
What am I gonna do?
Yeah, well, and I will say this, I do a lot with our guys on the road, even at home on games. A lot of teams will just kind of sit around all day. I wake my guys up. We do some activation and some movement stuff in the morning. We'll do, a walk through that day as well. And then we'll get to the field and do some stuff. So we keep our guys pretty engaged throughout the day. So they're just not just sleeping in the bed all day.
Yeah, that's
But we
good.
always
And
used to, oh, sorry.
there you go. You
We
go.
always used to do, like you also mentioned, like activating like the central nervous system. We also, in my teams in Germany, we used to do like small games. I don't know, just maybe tag in the morning or something like this, just to get the day started, and just sitting and sleeping in the hotel the whole day.
Yeah, we'll do what I call like a CNS wake up. So we'll wake up and then we'll break our team into a half. So I'll take, one half. I'll take like the offense, for example,
Mhm.
and then my graduate assistants will take the defense, and then we'll take them through. I'll take them through like RPR, in place mobility, and then my GAs will do activation work both for the upper, lower body, some cars, and then we'll flip, and then we'll go right to breakfast or meetings.
Yeah.
Like waking them up, getting them moving, so that by the time they're at the stadium, they've done at least something.
Okay. And I mean, of course, in terms of preference, there's kind of like one like pros and cons, but then also from a performance standpoint, is there more like do you see more benefit on day game or a night game? I don't know, in terms of, I don't like things I can think of. Okay, day game then probably gives you more time to you can eat a proper meal, you can recover, or night game might allow you to do all these things that we're talking about. Like, does that make a big difference on how you perform in the game?
I don't know. Regardless of the time of the game, we keep our schedule pretty the same. So like even if it's a noon game, we'll still wake up and do all that stuff. It's
Okay.
just all the filler is basically taken away. So typically on like a night game, we'll wake up and we'll do all that stuff. We'll do breakfast, we'll do meetings, we'll do walkthrough, and then there's just a giant gap of time where the guys can go get off their feet, do whatever before basically pregame meal, loading the buses ahead to the stadium.
Yeah.
Well, even on like a day game, we do all the same stuff, but then it's like, hey, like we're going from, CNS to walkthrough to pregame meal to, hey, we're getting ready to, roll.
Yeah. Okay. I see.
From a performance benefit standpoint, I'm honestly, I'm not sure, just because we do keep our schedule so, pretty much the same.
I see.
But I can see benefits for both sides.
Okay. I see. It makes sense.
Let's say there's like a long, heavy training session. What would you recommend every athlete to eat before?
So eating before, so just basically some type of simple carbohydrate. Just get some type of, fruit on your stomach, or some simple, carb. Maybe like drink some water or Powerade, 20, 30 ounces pre. And then post, as soon as you're done, obviously just replenishing fluids. And then also trying to start that, recovery process. So getting, your protein, your carbohydrates, and then getting a big meal in you within that, hour after training. But realistically, it's kind of different for everybody. Like I don't like to eat much before I train.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly like to train fasted. I know a lot of people may hit me for that one, but I just don't like training on a full stomach. But that being said, I'll make sure I'm at least taking in fluids before I train.
I see. And Jackson, I mean, you work in the sport of football, one of the most physical demanding sports there is. What's the biggest athletic freak you've worked with that you can remember?
I'm gonna say Colby Thomas. He's an outfielder right now for the A's. And incredible.
Yeah.
Pound per pound, one of the most powerful, strongest humans I've ever been around. He was maybe 5'10", 5'11", like 185, but just an absolute monster.
What was his position? Running back?
No, so he's an outfielder, so he's a baseball player. So I've trained a little bit.
Oh, outfielder. Okay.
I've trained all types of athletes. I've trained anywhere from women's rifle to football to, I've trained baseball, soccer, lacrosse.
Mm-hmm.
And some of my freakiest guys and girls have been outside of football players.
Actually,
I will say right now I do have a linebacker that cleans 405. He squats 600 plus. He benches 4+. Like that's pretty freaky. Seeing somebody take the 400 pounds from the floor to a front rack position is a pretty incredible feat. But with Colby, like I remember the first time this is years ago. Colby was a freshman, like 18 years old.
Yeah.
And we used to finish our baseball lifts up with like an arm farm. So like, hey, like you have 10 minutes, like absolutely obliterate your biceps, triceps, just have a good time. And I looked over and Colby's doing muscle ups. Like, oh shit, like this kid's different. Like we're like doing like 10. But no, by like the time he graduated, man, I mean, he was a 400 plus pound front squatter at 185 pounds, 300 plus pound bencher. I mean, I didn't necessarily clean my baseball guys, but I'm sure with how explosive he was, I mean, he used to hit like high 20s from a counterbalance, if not 30 from a counterbalance on a freaking jump mat. So when it comes to being twitchy, like he was it.
That's incredible, man, and also considering the fact that he comes from a sport like baseball, and like you being in the sport of football, like you're freaking athlete being from that sport. There's just some people that are just built different, right?
No doubt, like it's absolutely, they're just built completely different. And what's cool about him, like he was an awesome. And what's better about guys like that is like awesome human being, like incredibly humble, like doesn't think he's any better than anybody else, and just is just an overall great person.
Yeah, but then just goes to the gym and benches 300.
Works incredibly hard.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's very, very gifted, but when it's the combination of being a really good person, working incredibly hard, and then also being just as physically gifted, you can achieve some pretty incredible things.
Definitely.
That's why he's in his early 20s and has made a big league roster already, which is incredible for him.
Amazing.
So, maybe we get him on a podcast as well.
Yeah, man.
Try our best. Earlier we talked about like people coming in or athletes coming in with like maybe pain. What do you think? What kind of pain is it okay to endure during a training? Like you can keep training.
Yeah. So even when I'm working with my return to play guys, like on a scale of 1 to 10, like I'm okay being about a 4 or 5. Anything that's like sharp shooting above that, that's where we really, it's like, okay, like we got to like really back off.
I see.
And there's always something you can do, like, right. So we can always train. It just may look different.
I see.
And that's with muscle pain or with like, I don't know, ankle pain, or that's like, you mean 4 out of 10, like with muscle pain?
Yeah. Just like with like muscle. Yeah. Muscle pain. And then, I mean, and then obviously, like I've got a great relationship with my athletic training staff. If guys are, injured, it's, actually have something going on wrong with them, like I'll work with them to modify them to put them in a position to be successful. So maybe like, hey, like if you've got a significant ankle sprain, like, hey, maybe that day, like we're staying on a single leg, or we're doing, light bilateral work, or maybe we're just doing like ankle moves as a part of your lower body work that day. So working with, athletic training staff, rehab coordinator to basically get our guys, back to where they're able to actually perform.
I see. And Jackson, let's say you guys just finished the game. What would be your ideal next 24 hours? How would they look like? Like, what do you want an athlete doing those 24 hours after a game?
Yeah. So next 24 hours, we're getting back home, getting plenty of sleep, getting plenty of rest, right? Waking up, getting a big meal, and then we'll like to move our guys around a little bit after a game. We don't do a whole lot. We call it Sunday flush. But then truly being a flush, it's really just a bunch of movement. So I get our guys out, get them out in the sun, let them take their shoes off. We'll do a quick dynamic warm up, and then we'll basically do 3 to 4 mobility stations. It takes literally 25 minutes. I'm just trying to get the body moving again.
Yeah.
Trying to reset them back to baseline. And sometimes it's, pulling teeth for my guys because they're sore and beat up, but they feel so much better afterwards. Yeah. So it's that next day. Like, I don't like to do a whole lot from a training standpoint, but I do like to move my guys around, just try to get some of that soreness and tightness out from the game, from traveling, from even sleeping in a different bed from the hotel. Just trying to get them kind of reset.
Definitely.
And then we also talked about, of course, like a day in the evening, like at 8 p.m. And also, like, what do you guys do, like, for long travels? Like, maybe you have a long flight or a long bus trip. Like, you do something special to keep them, like, on the high performance?
Yeah, so if we have a long bus trip, typically we'll stop like halfway and do like some type of walkthrough. So typically we'll stop, we'll communicate with, we didn't have to this year. Luckily we're flying everywhere we go. But last year we would bus a lot, and we're doing our long travel trips. We'd stop at the halfway point. Typically for us, that was like St. Louis-ish. We'd stop at a high school. We'd spend 30 minutes. We'd get there. We'd walk about a quarter of a mile, and we'd get right into our walkthrough. Now what we'll do on our flights is we'll fly. We always try to get to our hotel at 4 p.m. Regardless of where we're playing. So we'll just adjust on the front end with the flight and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
The hotel, we'll give our guys about 2 hours to kind of get settled. So what that looks like is we get to the hotel, they get a quick snack, then go up to the room, shower, change, whatever they need to do. And then at 6 o'clock, we will do a 30-minute mobility segment.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that is in-place mobility, static stretching, cars, just trying to reset our bodies back to a baseline. And then we'll go to dinner, and then dinner to meetings, and meeting to get ready to go to bed.
Okay.
So basically it's, on those long travel trips, just trying to get our guys back to basically a baseline so that they're not just so overly tight and, going into the game day.
No, definitely, and having like always trying to arrive at the same time gives you also some type of consistency that I can imagine how it might be lacking a lot of the times with those travels, because a lot of things can happen. But then if you at least keep one part of it consistent, which is your arrival time, then what happens from then on is almost always going to be the same. So it gives the athletes also that consistency of what they're doing at travel.
Yeah.
And what is one metric that you wish you could measure?
GPS. Right now,
GPS.
we're doing the GPS. That's going to be our big step this next year is
Oh yeah.
getting GPS. We also don't have VBT. So
Mm-hmm.
that being said, it's good for me and my young coaches to continue to sharpen our coach's eye and be able to look at somebody like that's too slow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's way too fast. So being able to use our coach's eye to adjust. But yeah, VBT and big time would be GPS.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned is it's like when you're driving and you learn how to drive a mechanic, but then you go to automatic and it's super easy. Here the same. If you don't have that technology, you learn those skills, and then when you have that technology, it's gonna be way smoother than if transitioning from having the technology to not having it.
Yeah.
And I mean, in soccer, we use a lot the GPS mostly to track distance, and then also accelerations and decelerations. What are the things in football that you would want to track with that GPS? The same thing, or
total distances. I'd like to see speed, so the amount of max velocity, yardage that we did, also top end speed work, right? A cells, D cells, contacts. And then some even have the ability to track the amount of throws that quarterbacks are doing as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that would be a great tool for us to be like, hey, like progressing into season, like this, how much you need to be throwing. Because like realistically, like right now, it's like working with our quarterbacks, like, hey, like early all season, let's throw, twice a week.
Yeah.
For the first 2 weeks. Okay. Well, then let's progress to 3 times for the next, 2-3 weeks, and working with them to increase their volume of at least total throwing.
Yeah.
And once we get into the summer, it's like, okay, let's look down at the numbers. But being able to basically just prepare our guys for sport and utilizing that technology, whether it's total yardage per position or if it's, the amount of, high speed yardage guys are hitting into practice, so that I can basically backwards, plan to prepare for what their bodies are going to be, having like as a load. So
I see.
Are you wearing a Whoop watch?
Yeah, so I've got a Whoop on one, and then I've got a Garmin on the other.
You're tracked.
Fully equipped.
Yeah, completely tracked over here.
It's probably the dream for every performance coach to have the players have a Whoop watch. Or?
Yeah, I love Whoop. I've had it for like 5 years. And it's been cool to see how not only just training loads, but like how my stress has changed and how it's impacted my ability to perform as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've heard that it makes a lot of sense that the best way to improve something is to track it. Like if you weigh yourself every day, your weight is somewhat gonna be controlled, or it's gonna be more controlled than if you didn't have any idea how much you weigh. Same for these other metrics, right?
Yeah, 1000%. Like for me, like with the whoop, the biggest thing is like I can tell when I'm getting sick. So like the other day, like I had 2 out of my 5 metrics out of normal range. It's like, okay, well, like it's in season, it's week 9, like I'm probably getting sick.
It is the heart rate variability, right? One of the ones that tell you that.
Yep.
Okay, I see.
So they do heart rate variability, skin temperature, but the new ones now you can do blood pressure and all kinds of stuff, man. It's actually it's really, really cool.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Now, Jackson, you gave a lot of value, was very interesting. And just to finish it off, what's your final advice for every young athlete out there who's listening?
Oh man. As a young athlete, love the game, love the process, man. Like I think now, especially today's age, as a young athlete, you got so many athletes specializing early. Play a little bit of everything. Be an athlete, run, jump, throw, play soccer, basketball, baseball, football, and learn to love the game and learn the process. I think right now we've got, especially with this generation, we've got so many athletes that specialize so early. By the time they get to me, like they are so over sport. Like football is supposed to be fun. You know, soccer is supposed to be fun. And by the time they get to 18, they've been playing their entire life, and half of it's been just playing one sport, and they're completely tired of it.
Yeah.
And once you lose that love of the game, man, it's hard to keep fighting and playing.
Definitely, Jackson. That was a great way to finish it off, man. And as I told you, provided a lot of value not only for us, but then more importantly for the people watching. So I really appreciate you taking the time and being willing to share all your knowledge and experience, man. It's been awesome. It's been a good one, man. So again, I really appreciate it, man. Wishing to speak anytime soon.
Yeah, I know. I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a blast.